Hello there YouTube, PolarBear084 here, back with another episode of A Bear's Guide to Hunting, Monster Hunter Freedom Unite Edition. So today we are taking on some could say final form of Rathalos in the Monster Hunter Freedom Unite series, the Silver Rathalos. Now this is a stronger and, when enraged, faster version of Azure Rathalos. So if you found that fight to be a little tricky, the link will be in the top right if you want to see how to handle Azure Rathalos, in case you need help with that. But if you found that fight a little tricky, you might find this fight even more frustrating. But because of his large health pool and the fact that you're locked in a one-on-one battle with him, there's no real wasted time. You know exactly where he's going to be. We can employ a few different strategies to deal with Silver Rathalos than we can with Azure, because he's able free roaming around the forests and hills, which drags the fight on a little bit more than it would normally. So for our equipment, we are now in high rank, which means we should have some high rank armor. Do you know what? I'm going to wait until I get past the Remobra, and then we can look at it. So, our high rank armor of choice is Hermitaur armor. It's not the best choice. In fact, it has fire res negative, I believe, 15 overall. But what it does have is defense plus 40, because I have put defense jewels, in fact I believe they're turtle jewels, yes they are, throughout the whole thing. And that has allowed us to upgrade from defense plus 20 to defense plus 40, which is useful, it is helpful. It also has guard up, so if you do want to do this with a greatsword or a sword and shield, then you will be able to block attacks that you wouldn't normally be able to block, which is good. It means you'll lose less health as well, so that is useful. But we are using the True Devil Slicer, which is the upgraded high-rank version of the Devil Slicer that we've used previously. And the reason we're using it is because we need a lot of damage. We need high damage output. I mean, this has 816 attack, 520 thunder element, and blue sharpness, which is very, very necessary in high rank. There's a lot of creatures that green sharpness could bounce off of, and the longsword also allows us to overcome that deficit by filling the spirit gauge and effectively increasing our sharpness by 1 level. We've used that to great effect against Shen Gao Ren and Lao Shan Lung. I'll link both of those in the top right corner if you want to see how we used it against those two, because I know those two can be quite trying fights. And we will use them here as well. I know that what you may be thinking, Polar, in the past you've said that you really should use a greatsword because it gives you a lot more openings. You can charge attack when they're flying up and lowering down. You can charge attack when they are finished charging, and you can walk up to them and get maybe a 1 or 2 charge off of that, and that is true. However, we need to sacrifice that for the pure damage that we can get from a longsword. Alright, so this is Silver Rathalos. As you can see, he looks fantastic. I mean, I think he is maybe my favorite looking one. He clipped me there. He's my favorite looking Rathalos. He's also the most annoying. So, you know, I mean, there's that to consider. So, Silver Rathalos, you may be thinking that this is very similar fight to the other variants of Rathalos that you fought up to now. And to a certain extent, you'd be right. He does have all of the same abilities, you could say, all of the same attack patterns. However, he is a little bit more finicky than your typical Rathalos. He is able to shoot twice while in the air, more often than, say, your Azure Rathalos variant would. He also charges a lot. I don't think you ever see him walk. He only charges if he's moving from place to place. And the problem with that is that he can kind of do a combo where he will charge forwards, and you may notice it's a little slower than his normal charge. His footsteps aren't quite as quick, and that he has very good homing when he's doing the slower charge, which means that it's very difficult to avoid. Really, you're going to want to guard that if you have the option to. I mean, you can see that we're actually... Alright, this is going to hurt. Yep, there we go. We're actually not able to There we go. Hit him even with blue sharpness on certain areas of his body, because high rank increases the defense of these creatures by a lot. Alright, and you can start to see the extreme speed that we're dealing with here. This, I like to say that this fight is like the T-Rex scene off of Jurassic Park, except on fast forward. And I think that that is pretty much the most apt description of this fight you can get. Alright, and you can see the speed that he has compared with the slow animations that we have to deal with can get quite frustrating. Alright, him coming out of the fog though, when he does his charges, is just very cool. But anyway, coolness aside, I should really probably heal a little bit. So the best way to handle Rathalos is you want to stay round about here, right by his tail, right by his back left foot if you can, or back right works as well. Because you can avoid most of his charge attacks there, if you're quick enough, if you don't bounce off of him, which is why you need to get your spirit gauge up as quickly as you can. Alright, it is interesting that sometimes he will go off the edge and sometimes he will be stopped by the invisible wall. I don't know what exactly decides what happens there, but it's not consistent in any way, so just because you see him flying towards the edge, don't think that you have a lot of time to heal, because you might not. Alright, so, let's see. Let's talk about the different attacks that he has. His favorite is that, where he jumps back and launches a fireball. He will almost always launch a fireball, pretty much like 99% of the time he will launch a fireball when he flips back like that. And that fireball has a large range. And because of how fast he is when he's enraged, it is almost impossible to dodge, which is why you want to stay behind him, so that you can roll to the left or the right. You can stay in front and roll to the left or the right there as well. That does work, but it takes quite a bit of spatial awareness, I guess. And if you are lacking that, like me, then staying somewhat out of the range of those fireballs in the first place will be a better strategy for you. Of course, if you have a greatsword and you are quick on the draw, you can just guard against it. I would really... Like, there we go, tail's gone. Now we don't have to worry about tail spin as much as we normally would. Alright. So let's see, he does do a lot of flying around, as is typical for your Rathalos. That attack he just did, where he screeches and attacks you with his front claws, or his claws, that can poison you if it hits you. So let me go through the best strategy to deal with Rathalos. When he flies up in the air, stay underneath him. I mentioned this in my previous Rathalos videos, both of them, because the way he attacks is he attacks at an angle towards the ground, with his fireballs and with his claw attack. And I believe the angle is about 25% and 15% respectively, as long as you stand here before he starts attacking. If you're here when he starts attacking and you run in, he will home in on you and he will still be able to hit you. Even though it doesn't look like he should, even though he normally wouldn't from that angle, he will be able to if you are not underneath him when he starts his attack pattern. So make sure as soon as you see him fly into the air, run underneath him. It is incredibly important. Alright, so let's see. You can dodge his charges if you are in the right place. You don't always have to run and jump, you don't always have to run and roll. But it's very much situational. You need to be aware of that. So one thing to note about him, much like Lao Shan Lung, you need 150 health if you're fighting this guy. I don't know if you saw earlier, but when he hit me, when he charged into me, he did effectively 100 health. I mean, if you saw there, that was about 80-ish. That's a lot of damage. And so you want to make sure that you have a maxed health bar for this fight. Actually, I'm going to try and use these first aid meds. You want to make sure you have a maxed health bar so that you can take those kinds of hits. Alright, he did the claw attack there. It's very hard to show you the claw attack while also staying underneath him so he can't hit me. This is going to hurt. Alright, we were just out of the way, thankfully. Alright, so... It is reminiscent of the Rathalos fight you've already done, but the intensity is increased quite considerably. And also the inability to hit him a lot of the time is, I feel like that's more prevalent in this fight than I would say it is in Azure Rathalos' fight. So, when he's up in the air, he does have a chance, I believe only when he's enraged, but he has a chance to shoot 3 fireballs and then another 3. So bear that in mind. If you're trying to time a charged hit with a greatsword, for example, thank you, Cat, I needed that. If you're trying to time a hit, make sure that he's stopped shooting before you start charging, because you'll just whiff. Alright, when he's up in the air and you see him kind of flap his wings erratically, that means he is setting up to claw attack you. He'll also swing his tail around quite a bit and kind of raise his claws up to his chest. And that means he's going to attack you with the claw attack. So make sure you run and jump to avoid that if you aren't underneath him, because otherwise it will pretty much always hit you. Alright, see that? His slow charge there? That meant he wasn't going to charge and then fall over like Rathalos usually does. He was going to charge and then stop dead. I think Azure Rathalos does that every now and then. Silver Rathalos does that a lot more. There's 3 fireballs. Looks like he's lowering himself. So we're going to start or continue to attack. You can knock him out of the air, just like with Rathalos and Azure Rathalos. You can knock him out of the air if you hit him at just the right time. But it means you need to basically stagger him while he's in the air, which is trickier than you would think. Alright. That attack is the way he flies in a straight line at you. It's very rarely going to hit you. Same with this single fireball that he does. It's actually a good opportunity to hit him in the face. And we're going to roll to the side. That's why you want to cut the tail off, by the way. If we hadn't cut the tail off when we did, that would have hit us and done a lot of damage. So you really want to make sure you cut the tail off as soon as you can. We heard the screech, which means he did a claw attack. Alright, if you get knocked over when he's doing his roar by his foot, then you won't get the deafened animation that your character will do, which is actually quite useful. Alright, he fainted me out there. Sometimes he will fly up in the air and just land. He won't actually attack. I believe it's him repositioning. We saw, I think, Rathalos do that in the Rathalos video. So it is not impossible. It's not very uncommon. But normally when he's going in the air, he will attack you. So just be aware of that kind of feint that he does, because it can catch you off guard. But yeah, you can see that this fight is a lot of frenetic running around and dodging. There we go. He did the claw attack there. And sprinkled in are a couple of moments of intense attacking and dodging. Dodging his charge from close range especially is very difficult. Especially when he's enraged, because it takes less than a second for him to start charging when he's enraged. And when he's not enraged, it takes about a second. So it is very, very tricky to handle. I think the charge is the most damaging attack he can do, and the tail swipe is the second most. Purely because those two will hit you the most. His jumping back fireball hits you every now and then, but if you know how to dodge, and if you are keeping an eye out for it, like here I'm going to dodge so he can't charge at me, then it won't hit you that often. When it does, it could one-hit kill you if you aren't fully healed, but because it's very rarely going to hit you, are we going to get Spirit Gauge? We did! Hallelujah. Alright, now we have Spirit Gauge full, let's try and keep it full, which is not easy because he's always in the air. If you want to see what direction he's facing, you can look at where the fireballs go, and that can help you line up your attack when he's coming back down. Alright, that was dangerous. Sometimes the only reason that worked is because he's up against a wall. If you roll through his legs to try to avoid the fireball, it will hit you square in the face. So don't normally do that unless he's pinned up against a wall. In that case, it will work. Right, so we look at the fireballs. He's aiming at me, so we know that his head's going to be right here. I want to break his head if we can. He is enraged though, so this is kind of dangerous. You see how I rolled to the side there, and the fireball didn't hit me? I was square in the center of his body, and a simple roll to the left meant that or to the right actually, meant that I didn't get hit by the fireball. If you roll forward, that would hit you. if you try to turn around and roll back, it's not quick enough. Roll to the left or the right when he's doing his jump back, and you should be safe. This is greed, but you weren't punished for it, so that's good. Move back, and then go back in, and get punished for it. Sometimes he will, when he tail swipes, this is going to hurt. Ah, good. The edge of the arena saved us. But sometimes when he does his tail swipe, he'll do it in one direction twice, so a full 360, and then he will turn around and do it in the other direction for another 360. So it's that one catches me off guard, I think, the most of all of his attacks, because I'm never expecting it. He so frequently only does 2 that I'm never really expecting him to turn around and do another 2 in the opposite direction. Alright, so here we knocked him down. We're going to hit him as much as we can, get a spirit combo off, get some damage piled in. That's a slow charge, but that's only because he became unenraged before he charged. That can catch you off guard if you're not careful, because the slow charge means he's not going to fall over, but because he just come out of being enraged, it seemed slower to me than it actually was. It's a perspective thing, and it can definitely get you if you aren't careful. I would say the most dangerous thing about his fireballs when he flips back like that is the wind pressure that you get from the fireball, because that puts you out of commission for a long time, which it opens you up to a sudden charge, for example, or a tail swipe. It can provide him quite the opportunity, to the point that I would say getting wind pressure or maybe even earplug is useful, because he does the most damage when he becomes enraged, because when he becomes enraged, you are cowering from the roar. So that usually means he can get a free fireball off on you, he can get a free charge off on you. You can see that there's a lot of running around in this fight, even though we're confined to one area. But he can get a couple of good hits off on you if you are cowering from the roar, or if you're recovering from the wind pressure. So out of the two, I'd say earplug is the better choice. But since I was trying to get to G rank as soon as I could, and I had to fight the Daimyo Hermitaur anyway, I decided to do this. It's not the optimal choice, but it does show you that even if you don't have the elemental advantage, as long as you are careful, which I'm not necessarily being the most careful, but if you are careful and if you time your attacks right and make sure that you understand their attack patterns and what to look for, even with an elemental disadvantage, you can survive these attacks. And alright, this is going to hurt because we're stuck here. Oh, good. The cutting the tail off worked out for us. But even with the elemental disadvantage, you can actually beat these guys, as long as you know what you're doing. Alright, he's doing his fly attack. So the fly attack will only damage you if you're at the end, where he's about to land, because he'll land on you with his claws, and that will do a lot of damage. I don't want to be standing here. That'll do a lot of damage, and so you really want to make sure that you are not where he's headed. And if you are, just run to the side. Run to the side and roll, and you will dodge the damage from that. The only other thing it can do is wind pressure, but since the attack takes quite a while for Rathalos to do, it's not actually even a concern then either. Alright, so you see how quick that charge was? He's already back in the air. That's the kind of thing you want to look out for. You can't always predict it, you can't always stop it, but at least when he's in the air, it gives you a nice opportunity to heal and recover. Oh, 2 wind pressure reactions? That's upsetting. There is one way to prevent your character from reacting to the wind pressure of a Rathalos landing, and that is to attack. If you're doing your attack animation when they land, your character doesn't react to the wind pressure. So that's how you can use a longsword somewhat effectively against Rathalos when he's landing, because you can attack through the wind pressure effect and be able to continue to pile damage in when he's vulnerable. Let's see here. It's going back in the air. I'm going to use this time to, I think, I'll crack a couple of regular potions. Or maybe just one, because he only did 1 fireball. And see, this is the thing about this attack. It's almost like a waltz. You have to very much be concerned about timing. He moves as you move, and It can get somewhat exhausting because of that, because sometimes he doesn't give you the openings you need. This should give us the spirit gauge here. It will also make him enraged, which we knew was going to happen. We piled in a lot of damage. Alright, that is why you don't want to end up reacting to the roar, the enraged roar, if you can avoid it. Because if that fireball was an inch to the right, we'd be dead. Because we aren't at full health yet. That's the other problem with this fight. You can very... Oh, that's going to hurt. You can very easily... I rolled in the wrong direction, that's why that happened. End up in a situation where you aren't able to heal. I'm going to crack a Mega Potion, I think. And get me up to a reasonable level. I don't have time to heal again. If I'd healed there, he would have 100% punished me for it. But because I didn't, he just flew back up in the air. Alright. And that's like I was saying, this fight doesn't leave you a lot of openings for self-care, I guess, is the way I'm going to phrase it. You don't really have a lot of opportunities to heal unless he's taking off or landing, but what you really don't have time to do is sharpen. The only time I've really found that you have enough time to properly sharpen, with some level of consistency, is when Rathalos does his Around the World attack, which is something that was coined by Laguna Fox, who is a good friend. And I think it is very fitting, because he flies around the entire arena a couple of times and then always misses you. So it's very much a waste of time, but it is good to reapply any debuffs or any buffs you might want to use, sharpen your weapon. I'm going to see if I can get away with a sharpen here. He's doing fireballs, which means maybe? Alright, we did. And we were able to avoid the wind pressure as well, so that worked out incredibly in our favor. Alright. I did a special attack there, which is triangle and circle, because that knocks me back, which means I'm less likely to be hit by a fireball, I'm less likely to be hit by an errant charge or a tail swipe, which is definitely a technique you want to get used to. When you think the monster's about to move, and you can put some space between you, do the special attack, although here that wouldn't necessarily be useful. In fact, it would probably put me in more danger because Rathalos is tied up against the wall. And if I back away, then it could open me up to a charge, for example. This is going to hurt. Yep. See, that is why you don't want to roll towards him, because that... don't do it. Alright, we barely survived that. He's doing the Around the World attack. Perfect. That means I have enough time to... Instead of using Mega Potions, I'm going to use regular potions. I can save the Mega Potions for when I'm in more dire straits. I might even go carve the tail, potentially. Although, running like this is awful for the stamina. He always attacks from this angle. Over here. He always attacks... Oh, a plate. That's nice. He attacks from there. No matter where he starts from, he always attacks there. You can see him coming in. We're just going to do a running jump just to be sure. Even sometimes when it doesn't look like he's going to hit you, he can still clip you and it will poison you and do an extreme amount of damage. So while I did poke fun at the attack, you definitely don't want to make sure you don't get hit by it. Alright, so he is coming in over here. He'll always come back in right there in the center of the arena. So if you want to set up a charge attack, you can. I could say you could probably get 1 charge level or 2 out of that with a greatsword. Alright, he is no longer enraged, at least, which is good. So kind of the one nice thing about the Around the World attack is it is a kind of reset. He comes back, he's not enraged, you've been able to heal and fully re-stamina yourself, which is very good. It does mean that you also probably don't have your spirit gauge back, but we can get it back here just fine, so that's good. Alright, so we're in a dangerous position here. Thankfully, he focused on our cat instead. There's the rare bite attack. You will almost never see that. It's almost incredibly rare that he will actually do that. Alright, we were able to get out of the way because he was against the edge of the arena. Alright, there we go. Of course, I say you never see the bite attack, and he does it twice in a row. That's how it usually works in these games. Alright, he's very fast right now. Like I said, Jurassic Park T-Rex scene on fast forward. Which means that there aren't many openings for an attack. The only time you can really attack him when he is enraged is when he's landing from an aerial assault. That is about it. Every other time, you're just going to be running after him or running away from him. And unfortunately, that's not good for the spirit gauge, as you can see. But usually, Rathalos fights a lot in the air, so he will give you another opportunity to attack. And you can see how long this fight can take. Like, we're already 25 minutes in, and we've broken everything on him, but I wouldn't say he's anywhere close to death yet. Although, if he keeps getting staggered like that, we might be getting very close. Alright, I'm going to get out of range, because there's the double attack there. One way, one the other. Alright, what do we have here? We have fireballs. You can tell because his flapping remains constant, his flapping remains normal, that it's going to be fireballs. If he starts flapping a little bit more faster, and like I said, draws the claws up to his chest, then, then it's going to be the claw attack. There are quite a few good tells for Rathalos, which is good, because otherwise this fight would be near impossible. I'm going to take this time to heal a little bit. I hear 3 fireballs, so I'm going to take the time to eat a ration as well. That's why it's important to know his attack patterns, because it can tell you how much time you have to heal, maybe even sharpen. You really want to keep that information in mind. Much like Azure Rathalos as well, Silver Rathalos can charge from a standstill. So if you see him kind of lining himself up against you, if you didn't watch the Azure Rathalos video, if you see him kind of doing some micro movements to make sure that he's exactly lined up with where you are, he's going to charge. However, most of the time, if you're attacking him from the front, he's already going to be lined up with you, so you won't get that warning. He will just charge you, like he did just then. So that's why I say you should really stay on his side, or on his just behind his leg. But there is one other way you can fight Rathalos, and that is by attacking his head at an angle. So if you start attacking his head like this, then that leaves you a lot of places you can go, unless he rolls you into standstill. See, this is why I think Earplug might be the most valuable skill in Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, because so much of the time, when a monster is roaring at you, it means they've gotten enraged, which means they're going to do a lot more damage to you. And that is the exact time you need to be mobile. You need to be able to move and dodge and avoid those high damage attacks. And so I think that might be why Earplug is the best skill in this game. I can't think of one that is more versatile or more useful, except maybe Attack Up. That was greedy. I wanted to fill the spirit gauge too much. You can see just how much damage that did, huh? Oh, I didn't put my weapon away, so I wasn't running. But you can see how much damage that did. That we were at full health, and that did what I'm assuming is 100 damage, which means if you don't have 150 health, that will kill you, most likely. Alright. We're going to be a bit more choosy with our other attacking windows from this point forward, I think. And that's the situation that Silver Rathalos will put you in. You'll walk in here with 9 first aid meds, you'll walk in here with 10 mega potions, 10 potions, and you will still run out of healing items, because when he hits you, it only takes 1 hit. That's 100 health. That's effectively 2 mega potions, or a mega potion and 2 potions. That is a lot. Oh, a good stagger though. That is a lot of health to lose. This is going to hurt. Yep. If I'd have rolled left, I would have been fine, but it's hard to tell in the split second. And that's an unenraged hit, see? So, I was looking it up for this video specifically, and you know, I found a couple of old forums addressing, you know, how difficult Silver Rathalos can be, and in one of them, someone was just like, yeah, just don't get hit, you know, just don't get hit. And to that I say, yeah, okay, sure. Maybe if I finish the game, I won't get hit by Silver Rathalos anymore. Since he's coming back, I'm going to sharpen. I do need to. Which is not really the best advice. It's part of the reason why I started this series. I sharpened in the worst place. I knew he was coming back here too. I thought maybe I had enough time. Alright, I'm going to roll this way. And I mean, maybe with enough practice you can not get hit, but you have to kill him a few times to be able to not get hit. So, you know, that's why I started the series. There was a lot of, in my opinion, not great tutorials regarding Monster Hunter and dealing with these creatures, and you know, people would do these quests that's gonna... Oh, thank God I bounced. They do the quests with weapons and armor you can't obtain when you're fighting them, which means that they can get away with a lot more than, say, we can in these fights when we first deal with these creatures. I'm going to use a Whetstone. I want to get maximum sharpness if I can. Perfect. And wind pressure, I knew it would happen. We're going to run away, which I think is wise. But yeah, so, and I really think that's not the best way to handle it. The way I handle it is I bring more healing items. One thing you can do, you can bring herbs and blue mushrooms and mix them into potions. And they have a 95% chance of being combined and a 5% chance of creating junk. And if you bring one book of combos, in fact the book of combos 1, because that's the only one that works on its own, then that will be a 100% chance of making 10 extra potions, which is a lot of healing. If that isn't enough, you can bring 10 honey as well, and I would bring an extra 2 book of combos, so book of combos 1, 2, and 3, if you have the inventory space. And then you can craft 10 extra potions and turn those potions into mega potions. And that's a lot of extra healing, which I find I need in this fight. Because the problem is that you're trying to balance aggression with defense, right? You need to get in enough damage to kill this guy, and he has a lot of health, as I'm sure you've noticed since we're now 30 minutes in. But he has a lot of health, and so you need to be dealing a lot of damage to this guy, but you also can't leave yourself open too often. But if you fight too defensively, you will run out of time, even with the True Devil Slicer, which in my opinion is a fantastic high rank weapon. I think it's even usable in G rank, that's how good it is. Even with this weapon, there's still a lot of damage to do here. He doesn't leave you with that many openings, and you can't overextend yourself because then you run out of healing items. It's a tricky situation to be in. So I say cheat, bring more healing items. I've brought 2 ancient potions and... 1 ancient potion and 2 max potions. And the reason for that is, like I said, you want to have 150 health in this fight because of the amount of damage he can do. And I rolled into the path because I thought he was aiming for me and not my cat. That's something you want to be aware of too. Who is he aiming at? Is he aiming at you, or is he aiming at your cat? Because if he's aiming at your cat and you roll to avoid him, you could roll into his path, like I just did, so be careful of that. But yeah, I brought 2 max potions and 1 ancient potion, so that if I die, I can get my health back to 150, which is really important. And the way I usually do that in this fight is that I will come back into the arena, I will fight him, until he inevitably puts me down to a very low amount of health. And then I will use the max potion, because that will put me up to 150 from whatever health I have. If I have 10, it will increase my max health to 150 and then fill it to full, which is really, really useful. Of course, if he's enraged, just use the potion, because he could kill you in a single hit if you aren't careful. Like that, for example. That wasn't careful. Alright. Can I knock him out of the air? I know that I have sometimes. Not today. But yeah, there's a lot of moving parts in this fight. It's not easy to keep track of everything, and don't get hit just isn't very helpful advice, in my opinion. You can somewhat dodge some of his attacks, but, you know, this isn't Dark Souls. The hitboxes aren't exactly perfect, and some things hit you that necessarily maybe shouldn't. And like I said, you need practice to obtain that level of kind of mastery at this fight. I mean, I fought him... I don't even know. I wonder how many. I can check. Let's see. Monster list. Where is he? There's a lot of things that you aren't allowed to see. Oh, I guess it would only tell me Rathalos. It wouldn't tell me Silver Rathalos specifically. So that's not going to help us, I think. Move out of the way of the fireball that we know is coming. Please, please get that off. Thank you. Oh, and that is Coco, by the way, my feline that I use, has Health Flute, True Health Flute, and Armor Flute, because I found that I can typically do enough damage. It's the defense that I have a problem with, and the healing. So my cat gives me defense and has 2 ways to heal me, which I found to be pretty useful. You can also give your cat earplugs so they can react outside of monsters' roars, which is also helpful, but since my cat doesn't necessarily attack, it's not as good as it would be, say, on a fighter or a bomber. Alright, I have 1 potion, I have 1 mega potion, I have 2 max potions and an ancient potion, and that's it. You may also notice I bought a shock trap and some trank bombs. That's because I'm going to capture him. I don't think we've captured a creature on the channel yet, and I think it's important to talk about that. So the way you capture a creature is you get them down to weak status, which basically means they are almost dead. And there are certain tells for certain creatures. For example, Rathalos will limp if he is weak. And it will typically be very obvious. He'll, instead of, you know, maybe slow charging to a position, he'll just walk there instead, and he will limp. Alright, let's pile some damage in. But because you have to do it when they're close to death, there is a good chance that you will accidentally kill them, and that's fine. That can happen. But you want to be very careful if you're trying to capture a creature. You want to make sure that you don't overdo it. But with Silver Rathalos, it's kind of difficult to tell because of how much health he has. You can break everything on him and he's still not dead. I mean, as you can see, we broke everything on him, I think 10 minutes into the fight. This is going to hurt. Oh, thank God he wasn't enraged. That would have killed me if he was. Alright, I don't want to use the max potions. I want to save them for if I die. I'm not saying I will die, but just in case. And you may notice I'm not healing myself to full. It's not typically advised to do this, but I'm hoping that my cat will be able to heal me the rest of the way one of these days. Alright, we're unfortunately in the loop where Rathalos is doing return flights to and from each side of the arena. And unfortunately, there's not much we can do about that. We just run after him until he changes his mind. This will be another one. This is 2 ships passing in the night, this is. Alright, now that everyone's in the same area, he's going to stop doing that. That's good. Fireball? Thank you. Alright. I was a little worried he was going to charge there, but thankfully he didn't. He's repositioning. But that's a charge. Like I said, when you see him kind of like try to position himself towards you, it's either a fireball or a charge. It's typically a charge, though. Alright, can I get... Oh, I hear a flute. Thank you, cat. No, no, don't waste it. There we go. This sharpness is really doing a number on my ability to fight this creature. Ah, he barely clipped me. I think if you look at that, if you slow that down to like 0.25, you'll probably see that that didn't actually hit me. But like I said, the hitboxes aren't necessarily perfect. And so, you know, things that don't look like they should hit you still do. That's just something you have to kind of adapt to, you know? You can't change the hitboxes in the game, you can only change how you react to them, unfortunately. Alright, so we've got a couple of fireballs? Yeah, 3 fireballs. And he does change where he's aiming while he's shooting fireballs, so if you're trying to get over to, say, attack him on his wing, you want to make sure that you keep track of where his wing actually is. Because if he starts shooting in one direction, he will track you. There we go, another flinch, that's what we want to see. Move. That was very close. Alright, so typically a good way of checking if they are close to death is that they seem to flinch more often, or that they fall over more often. When you're attacking them, you'll knock them down. And that's a good way of keeping track of it. It's not perfect. If you have, I believe it is Psychic Vision, and you upgrade that fully, I think that will show you if a monster is capturable or not. So you paintball a monster. There we go, we knocked him out of the sky. If you knock him out of the sky, basically you make him flinch while he's flying. He will drop a shiny, and that shiny is your best method of getting a Rathalos Ruby. And even though I've done that every time I fought him, I still don't have one. Just one, that's all I want, just one. I'll frame it, put it on the wall. But anyway, what was I saying? I have no idea, it's gone. It's completely gone. I believe it was probably important, but it's completely erased from my brain, so I don't know. Can't be that useful. Alright. And right now we're kind of winding down the quest. He's definitely not... Oh, of course the tail swipe clipped her while she was... I think Coco's a he. While he was doing the health flute, unfortunately. Probably was a health flute. I could really use that. Alright. And again, you can see where a lot of the time is spent in this quest. It's there's a lot of waiting, as there usually is with the Rathalos quests. That's a good sign. Now, the thing is that you can only bring one trap of each type with you, so you don't want to waste it. But you also don't want to miss your window of opportunity either. The nice thing about this quest is that Silver Rathalos can't leave and go heal. Ah, he's dead. Okay, well there you go. I mean, he's dead, so we finished the quest. That's good. Where's that shining? Let me see. Give me a ruby. Oh well, it'll do. It's Poke Points. They're useful for the farm. But anyway, that's Silver Rathalos, and you can see how easy it is to not be able to capture a creature. Yeah, there was no sign at all that was given to us, except that he was falling over a lot, that he was actually capturable. And I believe it is Psychic Vision. When you paintball them, their color will change. Normally it's pink. I believe it turns blue when the monster's capturable, which is very, very, very useful. I believe we did cut off the tail. We did. But that's Silver Rathalos. I mean, it's just run-of-the-mill Rathalos fight, just turned up to 11. I mean, it's a lot faster. He's more unpredictable, I think, to start with, until you learn the little tells that he has when he's lining up a charge, for example, or when he's about to throw a fireball and launch himself backwards. In some ways, it's a little easier than Rathalos because he always shoots that fireball when he flings himself back, so you are always prepared for it. So I think that's helpful. And I would recommend using a different armor. I mean, like I said, I'm trying to get through to G rank to make sure that I can keep giving you guys these videos on time, so I'm not necessarily going through the game at a normal pace, whereas you might have the time to sit down and get a fire-resistant armor, which I would say is highly important. And as we see here, no ruby again, but we did get another plate, and plates are good. They're also rare. But that's going to do it. I hope this helps you. I know that this fight can be quite tricky to start with, and I hope that, you know, the strategies you get here can help you with that. Like I said, different armor would be advisable, but I do think the longsword is good because even with it, this fight took 40 minutes because it just takes a lot of time to put the damage in when he doesn't give you many opportunities. So yeah, I hope this helps you. I hope that you found it at least in some way helpful against any of the Rathalos you may fight, even outside of Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. So if you did, go ahead and like the video. It genuinely, I know everybody says it, but the YouTube gods have decided that allows other people to get these videos and get this help. And if you think that this is, you know, this might help somebody else, then go ahead and like it and let people know. And if there's anything you want me to improve, if there's any other tips you have against this fiendish creature, go ahead and leave them in the comments. I'm always happy to talk to you about this kind of stuff. I love this game, and I can't talk about it enough. It's a fantastic series. And yeah, if you aren't subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe. We're going to be fighting this creature's golden bride next week, the Golden Rathian, which is also more trickier than your typical Rathian variant. So make sure you subscribe for that. And then after that, we get into the big leagues, and then it gets really tricky. So make sure you subscribe so you know how to handle those things. And yeah, that's going to do it. I hope this helps you. I hope you continue enjoying this great series. And happy hunting.